Has Crit Graves made a comeback due to recent buffs? Does Tank Katarina still work, or should you be building her differently now? We've got all this and much more to discuss as we break down the new meta trends and provide you guys a complete update on the solo queue tier list thanks to the help of our challenger players and analyzing the most recent data. But before we get into it, be sure to check out Skill Capped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Olaf was the only top laner directly nerfed this patch, and he's landed right where we expected power-wise. The nerfs were not enough to remove him from meta as he's slotting in as a good S tier option. With Death's Dance being changed for 13.7, we're seeing more Olaf players prioritizing it as an earlier purchase now. In previous patches, the build of Ravenous and Jockshow was by far the most popular, but now in 13.7, Stridebreaker with Death's Dance has shot up in priority. Into comps that are more AD heavy, skipping Jockshow and going into Death's Dance instead is a great strategy. Both setups are still really good and a lot of it comes down to preference, but changes to Death's Dance make it a better second pickup again. One top laner who has been on the rise in recent patches due to shifts in meta is Sion. Sion is one of the few top laners who performs at a positive rate against Malphite and Mordekaiser. Especially with Malphite being so heavily contested in meta, using Sion as an answer has great value right now. Malphite loves playing into champions who are auto attack reliant due to his attack speed slow from E and armor scaling, but since Sion deals the majority of his damage from spells and removes armor with his E, much of Malphite's strengths are thrown out the window. If you're looking for a strong top lane tank that does well in meta and is relatively easy to pick up, Sion is a great option placed in our top lane S tier. For the top lane tier list, it's looking pretty much identical to where we had it in our pre-patch update. Malphite is without question the most free elo top lane champion you can play. Arguably the most sleeper top lane pick for 13.7 is Maokai. His core build of Sunfire, Abyssal, and even Shroud has got even stronger this patch due to the Abyssal buffs and is a really good answer to Malphite. Champ is being played a ton more over in Korea than in the western regions and is performing insanely well statistically. Best top laners to climb low elo the fastest are Yorick, Malphite, and Nasus. Highest on the ban list are Fiora, Darius, and Malphite. As noted during the intro, Graves with a crit build has been on the rise this patch and is looking like his most optimal build. If you didn't read the patch notes, Graves' critical strike damage per pellet was increased from 20 to 30%, which is a pretty massive increase. As a result, the win rate of a shield bow rush has shot up over 3%. There are a few different variations to the build you can run depending on the enemy composition. If you're playing against majority bruisers or tanks, then going shield bow with Bloodthirster is a great 2-item core. Against a very squishy enemy comp who won't be stacking any armor, the Collector works great in place of Bloodthirster. Infinity Edge is going to be the 3rd item you'll want to complete for most games. Rune-wise, you definitely want to go Fleet Footwork instead of Dark Harvest. It's more so about that consistent damage, kiting around and staying alive with this build, so Fleet offers more value over Dark Harvest. If you're thinking of picking up Graves, we just uploaded our Master in Minutes course to our website, which will help to greatly fast track your success in the champ. For Graves' tier list placement, he finds a spot in our A tier as a good jungle pickup. For the jungle tier list, there's simply nobody that comes close to rivaling Jarvan's power right now, so we're handing him the crown as the only OP tier jungler. We were optimistic the Kha'Zix exchanges would turn out net positive, but so far it's looking like the W nerfs are outweighing the Q and R buffs. In the grand scheme of things, the changes were pretty neutral, so we will be shifting Ka back into A tier for the mid-patch update. All the other jungle buffs and nerfs have landed where we anticipated. Wukong is now a decent A tier jungler, but nothing special anymore. Sejuani is now on the weaker side, sitting in B tier after her nerfs, and Vi remains a good A tier pick, building full bruiser now instead of Radiant Virtue. Lee and Rammus are both completely fine as well, despite their nerfs being solid A tier pickups. Optimal low elo junglers of the patch are Fiddlesticks, Mordekaiser, and Jarvan. Evelynn, Kayn, and Jarvan are on top of the jungle ban list. Katarina saw a few changes this patch, aimed at incentivizing players to build AP instead of Bruiser. AP builds have definitely become stronger, but at the same time, Bruiser Cat has not fallen off much at all either. Divine Sunder with Wit's End and Randuin's is still a really great build in games where the enemy comp has more Bruiser or tank champs. When you are against majority squishies that you can easily one-shot, that is where going Nashers with Rocket Belt fits in best. Overall, build diversity is really nice for Cat right now, as she can adapt well to each game and finds a spot in our mid lane S tier. Taking a look at the mid lane tier list, we have a few small adjustments to discuss. Annie and Pantheon remain on top as the best solo queue mid laners. Cassiopeia has been adjusted down into S tier as the Catalyst nerfs have led to a small decrease in power that pushes her below Annie and Panth. Despite Veigar being nerfed, he's actually performing better this patch for the lower ranks than before. The scaling power of Veigar's abilities were increased, and since low elo games tend to last a little longer, the changes haven't actually negatively impacted him stat-wise. High elo Veigar is definitely worse off, but since our tier lists are catered more towards what's best for Diamond and below, we will be moving moving Veigar back into the mid lane A tier. With Katarina being buffed this patch, she's now the most played solo queue mid laner, so if you're looking for a good answer to the pick, our OP tier champs Annie and Pantheon both do incredibly well. Top 3 mid laners to climb low elo include Veigar, Malzahar, and Annie. Annie, Zed, and Fizz are a few of the highest priority bans. It's been a rather quiet patch down in bot lane for ADC, as the Zeri nerfs were the only influential changes. Due to the nerfs, Zeri has lost a small chunk of power, resulting in her moving to A tier, but she's still a great option if you can pilot her well. Jinx will continue to dominate the bot lane meta as the highest priority ADC and the lone OP champ on the tier list. The Veigar nerfs have seen him lose a fair bit more power for bot lane than for mid lane. Since Veigar struggles to get levels in bot lane due to him sharing experience with his support, he doesn't get to benefit from the scaling buffs on his abilities as much as mid lane Veigar does. Despite the nerfs, Veigar is still a great S tier bot laner, but not super broken like before. Kalista was the only other ADC changed for this patch, and the buffs have shaped out exactly as we expected. They have led to Kalista gaining a little bit of power, but not nearly enough to warrant a move back into meta. Optimal bot lane carries for low elo include Tristana, Misfortune, and Veigar. Jinx, Veigar, and Samira are 3 bot lane champs worth banning out. With Thresh currently the most played support throughout all elo brackets and not phased at all by the nerfs this patch, who can you pull out as a good counter? Heimer is one of the best options, as his turrets do an incredible job at shutting down Thresh's pick power. Heimer has seen a pretty big drop off in play rate over the past few patches, but there's really no reason for it. Even if Thresh does land a hook in lane, if you've got a few turrets available, you're going to be able to turn on him and at least trade 1 for 1 if he tries to dive in. For a pure carry support, there are a few better options than Heimer, and he is placed in our support S tier. Despite many support champions being altered this patch, the meta has not seen much of a shakeup at all. OP tier for support consists of Melio, Rakan, Senna, and Blitzcrank. We noted last patch how the majority of Melio players were using the wrong skill order, but now that most players have caught on, he's looking even more OP than before. Just to be clear, it's an E max first into W second and Q last for the optimal skill order on Melio. Also worth noting, if possible, you want to be the one running heal instead of your ADC. Melio runs Arden as a core purchase, so the more heals you have, the more ways to constantly be proccing its passive. Thresh and Annie were both nerfed, but they have only fallen very slightly in power and are still amazing S tier options. This is arguably one of the biggest filler patches we've seen in a while, with nothing but placebo buffs and nerfs that don't actually accomplish a whole lot in significantly shifting the meta. The best low elo carries for support in 13.7 are Melio, Annie, and Zyra. We've got Rakan, Thresh, and Melio as the 3 most ban-worthy supports. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about skill caps. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into Elo Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So there you have it, guys, a complete look at the solo queue tier list as we reach the midway mark of 13.7. Thank you all so much for watching, good luck in solo queue, and we'll see you in the next one.